I can't wait to see the tomorrow, whereby a person will not define me by my appearance, but will define me by my abilities.
Welcome to Witch Hunt Podcast. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack.
Today we bring you a powerful conversation with Peter Ogik, the Executive Director of Source of the Nile Union of Persons with Albinism in Uganda. Peter shares his personal journey growing up with albinism on an island in Lake Victoria and the discrimination he faced from an early age.
Your eyes are going to be opened as Peter describes how myths and misconceptions about albinism have led to violence against people with the condition, including kidnapping attempts and ritual killings based on the false belief that their body parts possess magical powers. He shares that he has survived kidnapping attempts.
Peter also discusses the severe health challenges faced by persons with albinism, particularly skin cancer, which claims many lives before age 30. Women and girls with albinism face additional hardships, including sexual violence rooted in harmful superstitions.
Despite these challenges, Peter's story is ultimately one of hope and resilience. Through his organization's advocacy work in partnership with Advantage Africa, attitudes are changing. Schools are becoming more inclusive. Healthcare is improving, and people with albinism are entering professions previously closed to them.
Join us as Peter Ogik shares how education and awareness are transforming lives and challenging dangerous misconceptions in Uganda and beyond.
Welcome to Witch Hunt Podcast. Please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background.
Wow, thank you so much. It's such a great honor to be on this broadcast. Peter Ogik is my name. I was born and raised on Kisma Island, one of islands in Uganda found on Lake Victoria. And right now I work with an organization called Source of the Nile Union of Persons with Albinism as Executive Director.
Great. Thank you. What would you like us to know about your home country, Uganda?
Well, first of all, I want the viewers and you to know that Uganda is such a beautiful country with beautiful landscape, nature, everything about Uganda. Very tasty food. And I think it's a very, very great place to stay. A lot of adventures. Unfortunately, I think the bad part of it comes when some other few members see that, oh, there is an unusual child being born. And that's where the horrible part of it. But naturally, it's so good. People are so welcoming. People are so warm and they're loving people. But that's when I started feeling, oh, I think this is another part of Uganda, which other individuals are trying to portray. Yet it's known for good people.
Thank you for sharing about that. Let's start off today learning a little bit about the challenges of persons with albinism that they're facing every day.
Well, thank you so much. That's such a good question. And maybe I'll start that to bring my personal experience from the place where I was born from. As I said, I was born in an island on Lake Victoria, located in Jinja, Uganda. This island is populated, by then it was populated about 600 people. Unfortunately, I was the first one to be born unique, born with another color, which wasn't so much appreciated, welcomed. And my parents, first of all, I think they were misunderstood and they thought that our family is a curse. Because how comes two black parents giving birth to a white child? Something maybe it was wrong. So here, that's when they started also experiencing the myths associated with albinism. They thought that maybe my mother did something wrong, maybe because maybe fornicated, and there were a lot of pressure to my dad to divorce my mother for having given birth to a person who's not normal, who's not even recognized a person, but was called a fake. So, you see, your wife has given birth to that thing. It's a bad omen to the community. So they forced him. Thank God that my parent was so bold enough. And my dad loved so much my mom and said, oh no, even when people are saying that, you are my wife. I don't believe what they're saying. And this is our son. So they embraced me just like another child. And of course, I was young, didn't know anything. Personally, I started realizing what it meant, or what is it like to live with albinism. When I started going to school, that's when I discovered. Of course, at tender age, of course, I tried to play with the children, and was so curious to know why am I so different even from my other peers and what. But my parents used to tell me, oh no, you're just good just as you are. But when I went to school, I think that those sweet words, encouraging words, I found out like they were like to comfort me. Because at school, it seemed not to be good, as my parents used to tell me. Students or people didn't want to sit close to me. Even teachers never knew how better they can support me. Not knowing challenges that comes with albinism, such as visual challenges, short-sightedness and what. And instead, they used to place me behind, I used to sit behind the classroom. With my vision impairment, this meant that I couldn't read properly on the chalkboard. I felt like not even continuing with the studies because I was not seeing anything, and children were bullying me, even others to the extent of pitching my skin to find out whether I can cry like other babies. So I found out that the bullying was too much to me, and I said, Dad, I think I will not continue to go to school because I'm treated like an outcast. No one wants to sit close to me. And the teacher, they are placing me behind the chair. But I'm thankful to my parents. I think they were my number one advocate. I think they are the reason why I'm standing to continue advocating for many other people. Because they were there to stand for me. My dad continued to encourage me, said, no, my son, you have to study. And I know one day you're going to be a great person. So we need you to study to be able to achieve this. Okay, I continued. But it was this time when it was beyond me, when children do a lot of making that, oh, things like you don't die just disappear. Psychologically, this tortured me. Because I would sit down and wonder, will it be a Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, the day that I will disappear? And whenever first, I would make sure that they put an eye on me so that I may not disappear when they're not see. So psychological of a child, that tortured me. And now what made even things more worse was, I think one day, the teacher gave an homework. Remember, I'm sitting behind the classroom and I couldn't see what was on chalkboard. Whenever I tried to go, the children would yell on me, calling me funny name, many funny name, and I ended up sometimes not doing the homeworks, those kind of exercises which were given to us. One day, teacher interpreted me for being stubborn, not respecting him, not to do the work. So he brought a big cane to cane me, and I ran out of the class. I ran to Dad to say, Dad, this is what is happening at school. Teachers are not giving me, they're not allowing me to sit in front of the chalkboard to see clearly what was written. And that instead of thinking that I'm just stubborn and you want to beat me that big cane, that's what I've run. I decided to run out of the class. So my dad held my hand and moved with me to school and to see the head teacher. And the head teacher, I had to summon the teacher and asked him, why do you do ABCD to Peter? So Dad had to, even when he wasn't so much good in science, but he tried to explain because he has stayed with me, he knows me, because he's always see what I am capable at school. So he told Peter has a condition which doesn't allow him to see clearly when he sits very far. from the chalkboard. If you want him to perform so well, make sure that he sit in front. And I try to tell the fellow student to know that he's just like anyone else. First, we know him as our adorable son. So it shouldn't be mistreated. Wow, that was like a green light to me. And a hope was renewed. And it was like a breakthrough to start performing so well. Because the teacher, they started putting this in action. I was placed in class in front, and my performances started changing. Before that, students were told that when you sit close to Peter, Peter will eat you. That thing will eat you. So even the student didn't want to sit close to me, thinking that I'll be eating them. Because those are the myths that the parent told them. Thanks to God, when my dad went there, he spoke to them and they changed. I started sitting in the front. And when I started sitting in the front, I started performing so well. And of course, in any other class, in the class, you find that those more other low learners, and they would always come for me to help them with some answers, because I was always so attentive and understanding whatever was written. And of course, you can't come to me to ask for an answer if you're not my friend. So they started becoming my friend. And being my friend, coming close to me, they were thinking nothing happening to them. So they started telling their parent that you lied to us. You told us when close to him, we'll be like him, but he's our friend. In fact, I wasn't getting this very well in class, but it's the one who helped me. So thanks to God that these children started to become my ambassadors as well, to disprove what their parent was saying. And in me, I'd already understood what it meant to be bullied, what it meant to be misunderstood, what it meant to be lonely when others are playing, but they exclude you to play with them because of different reasons. And that's when I started to get inspirations. That's where I started to get inspiration of becoming a leader. Because I believe that when I become a leader, I'll be maybe with a voice too. Maybe to punish or maybe to report those who try to mistreat other people. Just as I was mistreated, being caged and what. But remember now, I started performing so well. That means I started getting more friends. So when I stood into leadership, they gave me the votes. And when I was given the position into leadership at the school, I tried to create a very harmonious school which is full of harmony, peace, loving, and because that's what all I needed. And that's what I knew that it's what everyone needs. Everyone needs to be loved, everyone needs to be accepted, everyone needs to be heard, which I wasn't feeling by then before maybe my parent coming and advocating to change the story. Well, when the time went on, of course, as a family, at least my community, literally, people around me started to change their person. This wasn't all for that. With time, our family expanded. I think I didn't tell you I was the firstborn. My parents, and being the firstborn, I was born with albinism. So I had more other followers with albinism, like 3 of them, than the last born who had also albinism. So when he was born, that was another good story for me. I knew that, I thought that I was one only in the world. Now I've got somebody who's like me. By through those years, I'd not got any chance to see any other child with albinism on an island. So I knew that I was the only alone. So even when, yes, I knew I've got 10 level of acceptance, but in me, I was still battling that up. How comes I'm the only one with this kind of condition, which even my parents can't explain to me how I came about. Only maybe to encourage me, say, you're a child, you're a precious child, and all that. Can't get biological explanation how come to me to be different. Of course, I know my dad used to tell me a very funny story. You see that cow? It's black. But when you try to see the milk, it's white. So that's how things are on. He used to say yes, but with little accepting. Yes, I've seen cow, but not in people. Wow. So the life went on. However, when I grew up, that's when I came to understand that it wasn't me only who was passing through discrimination, abuse in different format. But there were so many other people with albinism who were not even given opportunity of being parented by two parents. Me, I was lucky enough that my parents loved me. They adored me and they did all their best to make sure that I go to school. But when I grew up, that's when I got to know that there are some of those who are kept in kennels, that those who are hidden when visitors visit them, that those who are not even given opportunity to go to school because they thought that it's a wastage of resources. I believe even me, when I was trying to go to school, those early ages, they told my parents to take me to school. It's wastage of resources. So if I study, who is going to employ me? So there were a lot of discouragement, but I thank the boldness of my parents. They never gave ears to what the people were telling them. But when I grew up, I found that, wow, there are very many of our colleagues didn't get the chance, who didn't receive the love, who were not embraced even by their own. This was so sad story. And one of the things that motivated us to start Snowball. Because apart from myth and misperception, there was those kind of abuse, thinking that our body parts are source of wealth, thinking that when they get your fingernails, when they cut your hair, when they get your head, somebody becomes rich. And always my question was, and why not our parents rich if we are the source of wealth? Why our family not rich if we are the source of monies and ABCD good? So apart from that, again, we had a challenge of the environment, the sun. So we found ourselves, when you walk through the sun will burn you. When it burns you, it becomes a wound which turns to skin cancer. And the question was, where do we belong? The environment is somehow harsh, but our community is also not embracing us. Where should we go? The cancer is killing us, but the people are hunting us. Personally, I survived 3 times attempts to be killed. Personally, people tried to kidnap me, to cut off my head 3 times, and I survived. I thank God for this. They wanted to cut my head so that they may use it for witchcraft and maybe get wealth according to what they think, which is myth. We thought that anybody parts of person with albinism would make someone rich. This is a total lie, which made many of ours to live in fear. To be honest, just recently, that's when I started feeling the boldness to walk without seeing behind. But always I would be so curious to see who's following me. So I remember the first time people came and approached me and asked to give him lots of millions just to give them my hair, because that would give the people who wanted my hair a lot of wealth. Thankfully that my parents, they were also protective. And they summoned this person. They warned him and ran out of the venue. That's how I survived. Because after all these kind of several attacks and what, people were coming to my rescue. And when my uncle knew about this guy, and they called him and they summoned him, and of course he had to run out of the village. And that's how I survived those other kind of kidnaps. So when we came together as persons with albinism, with my fellows and colleagues and other supporters, that's when we start to see, how do we change the narratives? How do we change this? How do we reduce the kidnaps, the fear that lives within us? How do we reduce the cases of skin cancer amongst persons with albinism? How do we create school to be very inclusive, just like what I got at school? And that was the reasons why we started SNO, the source of the Nile Union of Persons with Albinism. The name itself, being called the source of the Nile, we believe that the source of the Nile is the longest river in the world. And we would want, as the waters of the Nile flows, we want also the knowledge about albinism to flow like that. So that persons with albinism, wherever they are in the world, any part of the world, they shouldn't be killed, they shouldn't be mistreated, they shouldn't be, covered or abused by the ignorance of people. And that's why we chose the name. I mean, all what I was telling is story, and it's a proof that communities can change for good. Some years back, I wasn't even accepted to be in the same hotel with other people. Wasn't allowed to sit in the same buses or taxis with people. But when we started this organization, when we started this advocacy, the perceptions of people started changing. People even started to admire, to give birth to children with albinism, which we don't have control over. That means that, yes, I won't say that everything has changed, but at least things are changing. As I speak now, parents started to take their children to school. We have now different graduates in different fields. We have nurses, we have doctors, we have engineers, we have lawyers. Just within the period, we started to create awareness. But also, I used my personal experience on how I got the challenges to school, but also with the skills which my dad, with advocacy skill which my dad went to the teachers. It's the same also skills which we went to different schools to retrain teachers on how they can support the children with albinism to learn and excel in their education just like anyone else. And that's how we were able to achieve what everyone achieving. Every year now, at least, we get different graduates in different fields. But that came as a result of empowering teachers on how better they can support students with albinism to be very good in classes. To continue also sensitize fellows without albinism to be always supportive, to know where and how better they can interact with this person with albinism. So that's why I'm saying that, yes, there are some myths and misperceptions, but this myth with awareness, with our work, we've seen that it's very possible. The stories to change for good. As I say that, I used not even to be accepted on buses just because people had mixed feelings, saying that, oh, when I sit close to him, this is what will happen. So I started moving door to door, stages of border, stages of taxis, to let them know that we are human just like anyone else. Don't think that me being a white with a pale color, white color in African continent, it doesn't take my Africanist. I'm African, my parents are African. So my being is not founded or described by my appearance. No. I shouldn't be described by my appearance. No. So I went with my teams, with my colleagues, we went to different schools, we went to taxis, we went to different places, to the extent of calling heads of witch doctors, the traditional healers, to denounce the myths and misperception about albinism. I remember we called them several times to come and denounce the myths that are tied to albinism, because they're the ones who always send people to come and collect the different parts, body parts of persons with albinism. So we had to call them on the radios. We had to call them on the TVs. Please tell the people the truth. Do we have any wealth within us? If really you cut my fingernail, will you cut all my any body part? Will you? How does wealth will be generated? Somebody to get wealth had to work hard, but not to think that our body parts bring wealthy. In fact, this aims at endangering us and to make us live in fear. Thankfully, that through this kind of campaigns, people started changing. We continue to work, and this is what we continue. And all this work has been as a result of collaborative efforts with our partners like Advantage Africa. We started working with Advantage Africa in 2013, and when they came, they met me with my team that I work with. They sat with us, and they started to analyze, to know how do we think the societies will change, and what are those things that really, affecting so much persons with albinism, and what would be the solutions. And we've been working with them in very many things, from organizing the International Albinism Awareness Day, which has been bringing thousands of people to come to know more about persons with albinism, to influence policies. For example, the sunscreen lotion imported in the country, we don't make the sunscreen lotions in Uganda. And it's very, very key element in protecting our lives from skin cancer. So with Advantage Africa, we worked so hard to make sure that we influence the parliaments, the president, and all officials to make sure that they waive off the taxes on the sunscreen lotions. And right now, as we speak, we are able now to import this sunscreen lotion and provide to different persons with albinism across the country. Through still the support, we've been able to reach out. Every month we reach out to about 4 to 5 districts with mobile skin clinics to make sure that we try to mitigate skin cancer amongst persons with albinism. As we go in these mobile skin clinics, we go with dermatologists who always screen the skins and give protective factors against the sun, like the lotions, the white brimmed hat, sunglasses, and all things that would help persons with albinism to be safe. It's so bad that even some of the medical doctors used to mix their professionalism and their culture, thinking that maybe albinism is somebody so special. One of the parents gave us a story when she was giving birth to his son with albinism. Something shocking happened to her in due process. Because when she was pushing the baby, and the nurse, the midwife saw that it was the baby coming with different skin. The midwife was in shock, made a noise saying, "What is this lady producing?" This mother said that he almost jumped off the bed because she also didn't know what she was producing. It was by God's grace that he didn't fall off. Otherwise, maybe both of them, they would have died there and then. Imagine this statement coming from a medical practitioner. So that can give you the level of how lack of information about albinism was affecting everywhere, not only to people who are not educated, but even to certain level people who are educated. Imagine scientists who were not having enough information about things. So through that work, that's why I said, we need to train more other medical practitioners to know about this kind of conditions. And through that, we are registering changes. And there's some changes that we're seeing. I spoke about school. This has been effort together with Advantage Africa to make sure that we retrain teachers on how better they can support students with it. We continue to advocate schools to allow students with albinism to put on long-sleeved clothing so that the sun doesn't burn them and get wound and get days off nursing the wound, and yet they would be missing the classes. So all through this kind of advocacy as what has yielded these fruits which I've told you about, different graduates with albinism. As I told you that I had a sister who was like me. My sister, she was called Mary. She was knocked with a car. But this is also say that it was attached to misperception. Somebody wanted just to kill and grab and take her. But unfortunately, he was rescued. So here where comes the myth and misperception that people with albinism don't die, just disappears. I remember very well when my sister passed on, people came and advised my dad not to bury her very far from the compound of home, or else people will come and dig and take her body. To be honest, during that time, during the day of the burial, many people came to witness if really people with albinism died. We hosted very many people who came for the funeral. And my dad, after burial, he had to sleep outside for about 6 months to make sure that the grave is not broken. So this can tell how people used to believe things that are not real. We are so human, just like anyone else. I will say it. Being with albinism doesn't make us to be less human. Because sometimes we get surprised. When you go to Europe, you'll not... When you go to Europe, doesn't mean that you become a Europeans. They'll not take you as a Europeans. And when you go to America, of course, you'll not be called Americans. And when you be in your own motherland, still, they don't accept you just because of your appearance. We are African, even when we carry a different color. And that's why I say that my Africanness is not defined by appearance. I'm just human, just like anyone else. Different color, but one people.
Thank you so much for sharing your story. That's really powerful and illustrates a lot of the challenges that people with albinism are facing today, and also shows the efforts that have to be made. Are there other legal protections for people with albinism in place?
Well, thank you. Is there any legal protection for persons with albinism? When you see the constitution of a country, it protects everyone, every human being. And we are part of the human being. However, other people took us to be less human just because of appearance. And they find sometimes many who've been abused and not being helped so much with the systems of the law. You find somebody is kidnapped and they cut off the ear, and police will ask, now which kind of case should I file to this person, to the perpetrator? But this is already attempting to kill someone because he has kidnapped and forcefully cutting. It's an assault case. However, we have very many laws about discrimination and what. But sometimes those laws are not being put in place. And through those weak laws, that's why I find even most persons with albinism losing the interest to report some of the cases. To be honest, when we go to police, you will not find many cases reported. It's few. But people live in fear. People used to live in fear. People, they are frightened. People don't feel that safe. I'm lucky that I stay in town, but when you try to see ways, try to make sure that a lot of surveillance cameras and more other protection to make sure that I'm safe. Because I still, yes, I know that some changes, but that doesn't go away. We are neighboring this country. We are neighboring Kenya. We are neighboring Tanzania, where the killings have been happening so much. We are neighboring Congo. We are never, so anything can still happen, even when we are trying to do our best to change and to make a very protective. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I would love to hear about International Albinism Awareness Day and how your organization has used that to raise awareness. And is that just local awareness? Has that helped with the international awareness as well?
Thank you so much. National Albinism Awareness Day, we started celebrating it from 2015. And this is the day which the General Assembly allowed so that we'll be celebrating and create more awareness about albinism. And for us in Uganda, we always do it in the major towns, which attract hundreds of persons with albinism and thousands of those without albinism, including local, national, and international media. And through this, to be honestly, things are changing. I may say that we are not 100% well, but things are changing. And partly this has been as part of the International Albinism Awareness Day celebration, where people come in big number to see persons with. And we use that opportunity to let people understand that, albinism is just a genetic condition. It's not contagious. It's not ghost. It's not just. We use that opportunity to people to understand albinism. It's just a genetic condition where somebody is born with less or without melanin on his skin, the eyes, and the ear. So there is nothing different. Somebody listening to my voice, it has no albinism in it. Somebody's with albinism, you can't identify that this is a person with albinism or this is of without albinism. Even the blood, you can't differentiate. So we are all that appearance that may make me look differently. So we're saying this date also, we use it as an opportunity to speak to different government stakeholders, the influential people in the country, for example. We've been having with the prime ministers, with the speakers of the parliament, with the members of parliament, where we would question them to be accountable to the situations of persons with albinism. So we think this is has really contributed by making them try to make other policies and try to enforce other laws which are sleeping to make sure that we as persons with albinism, we enjoy our right just like anyone else. So it has really contributed, and not only within maybe my country, but this has been helping widely in different places.
You've covered a number of challenges that are faced by persons with albinism in general. Are there specific challenges you could talk about that women and girls are facing?
Yeah, women, yes, I said that we have many challenges. But again, women and girls, they face extra challenges. There are a lot of myths that are tied to women with girls. First of all, you find many other people have the myth and misperception that if person maybe sleep with somebody with albinism, a woman with albinism, somebody can get cured of HIV/AIDS. And this has put their health at risk. You see those who have contacted HIV, it's just a result of people who come to rape them. We thought that they will get cured of HIV. And as a result, you find they're affecting these girls. Some men also come for these women just to find out, are they also same women just like any other woman? At the end of it, they leave them with the carrying pregnancies without any care. So you'll find them with children, but when dad is not there. So you find this woman with albinism struggling, but at the same time had to struggle for his baby to make sure that he goes to school. We found many stories like that. And by the way, you'll find our work with Advantage Africa have been trying to address those kind of issues. There are really very many cases regarding to that. In addition to that, still you find, even in our work, we find that it's mostly, especially those kinds of ladies, are the ones who are affected so much with skin cancer because they will have to work extra time to take care for themselves, but also take care of their babies. So they'll have to do all kinds of work, which sometimes expose them to sun. And at the end, they get wounds, and wounds which turn into skin cancer. To be honest, when you try to find in our database, you find that it's women who are mostly suffering from skin cancer. I don't say that men, they don't. But when you see the percentage, and that comes as a result of them trying to make sure that they support their families. Because they're single parents, most of them.
It's especially heartbreaking because you have all of the health challenges that come with the health, but then, these women, these girls have dreams and hopes and skills and things that they love and want to do. And when other people make decisions that add extra harm to them, it can take that away. I find that especially heartbreaking, and how important to educate the population so that they can start to see them as not magical, so that there's less harm to steal dreams, but then you still have these other challenges. So what strong women they are.
They're
The
really
survivors.
strong.
Yeah.
Really very strong. And by the way, this is one of the things that gives us sometimes sleepless night with Advantage Africa to see what and how can we get the resources to continue changing this narrative. I know we are trying, but sometimes the resources don't allow us. But we're trying all what we can to make sure that we don't bury the dreams of these young women. And through that, that's why we started certain enterprises just to support them have small businesses, to be able to do some businesses that would not, again, expose them to much sun. And the young ladies who want maybe to get more skills in tailoring and other hand skills, we are also trying to support them so that they can get more skills that will give them money without struggling so much in the sun. Already, there's super ladies, there's super
Yes.
people who are thriving beyond their lives to make sure that they support their young children.
How deeply does skin cancer impact persons with albinism? What kind of problems does it lead to?
Well, thank you so much for that question. In fact, when even you try to Google it before giving you the fact finding in our organization, find that above 90 persons with albinism die skin cancer before celebrating their 30 years of age. Others, they die between 30 and 40. So biggest percentage, or I would say that the most killer persons with albinism is skin cancer. And that became one of our pillars on health, improving the lives of the health of persons with albinism by reducing the skin cancer cases, and became one of our first projects to be done by Advantage Africa. And this was supporting the different quarterly skin clinics. So every quarter, after 4 months, we go to the same people and make sure that their skin is cleaned, freeze, are free from skin cancer. But on top of that, to give them the sunscreen lotions, giving them the wide brimmed hat, giving them the glasses, and all things that protects them. To be honest, where we were in Busoga, where we started from in Busoga sub-region, eastern part of Uganda, where we had conducted these clinics of more than 10 years, we see a very great change. By the time we started, every month we would register many cases of skin cancer. I would say that by then, the rate was about 96%. You'll find patients whose skins are really rough and carrying some precancerous solutions and what. But now as I speak, even the patient whom normally we get with skin cancer are out of Busoga sub-region, which shows that the skin cancer can be eliminated if we work on it earlier. And this is the hope that we have if we continue to do what we did in Busoga sub-region. We'll have cancer-free environment for persons with albinism. It's the reason why we expanded our work to other parts of Uganda. By the way, it's not only Uganda, but you find now we provide the circulation to some part of Southern Sudan and Eastern Kenya. They come to benefit from these services. And our vision is to make these persons with albinism free from skin cancer, because it's prevented, can be prevented if we take the good precautions, like which we are taking in different parts of the country. We believe that one day, one time, there will be like those in Busoga sub-region. However, it's one of the killer. And why skin cancer? This comes back to the first story which I told you. Men, the adults were not given opportunity to go to school. I wanted to bring the circle of skin cancer and poverty among persons with albinism. The issue is, as I told you that earlier, persons with albinism were not given a chance to go to school because of the myth and misperceptions attached to the condition, thinking that they won't make it even when they go to school. So they didn't give them, most especially the adults, opportunity to go to school. And when you're not educated, of course, to get the money, you will have to do the hard way. You will have to expose yourself to the sun. And when you expose yourself to the sun, there is high risks of getting wound and skin cancers. And that's why that's comes that most persons with albinism used to die between 30, 40. However, through this, we're seeing people growing up, older and older. And we're seeing things changing. So this has been one of the number one killers. And we're trying all the best to treat those ones who are sick, but also our major focus in preventing the skin cancer. And that's why every month we try to go to different districts across the country to make sure that we prevent them from getting skin cancer. We go to school, we educate them, we try to educate different people. In fact, we are appealing the government to continue to do what it takes to make sure that even the subscription that we give need to be in the government hospitals. These are the machines. In fact, in the entire country, we are the ones owning this cryogun machine. But we need them to be owned in the country. We need the government to increase the number of dermatologists so that people don't struggle to come to us. We need them to get the treatment wherever they are. So that's our prayer in the future. And if that is there, then we will be able to fight skin cancer among the persons with albinism in our community.
Thank you so very much for this discussion and for sharing your personal story and all the challenges that are being faced, but also what is being done about them. I just want to close on asking, you talked about how lives are being changed and lives are being saved through the skin cancer prevention. Is there anything else? What else gives you cause for optimism and hope for the future of persons with albinism?
What gives me hope, to be honest, when we see somebody who has lost hope, for example, when you see these people struggling with skin cancer, see them regaining back their lives. It gives me hope. But also the work that we've been doing, when we see where we are and where we are from, it's helped to clearly give me the picture of where we are going. 10 years ago, as I said, we wouldn't share the same taxi bus. We wouldn't go. Me, I was lucky, but my colleagues wouldn't go to school. You find many that were abused. We were not in towns. Most of the children with albinism were hidden in villages and what. But right now, the things are changing, which really gives me hope and gives me more energy to continue doing what we do. And more so, if we're joined by people like Advantage Africa, people like you are sharing our stories to many to understand that it's possible. The change is very possible. Yeah, it gives me hope. No, yes, we will reach there. We've not yet reached there, but there is hope. We are seeing it now that we will reach there. By that, I'm happy that it has been proved to many other African countries that things can change. And I know there are some people, some places where killings are happening, but with what we've seen, it's very possible things to change. Like what we are doing, calling the traditional healers to come to denounce these kind of things, it's helping to change. Holding the stakeholders and holding them accountable on what are they doing, it makes things to happen. Informing persons with albinism how better they can care for themselves and letting them know that your appearance doesn't make you less human. It's making them more stronger. Seeing these ladies who are single mothers struggling for their children, it gives a lot of, if they're doing it, how about us? How about me? So all these kind of things gives me a lot of energy and see the real picture for tomorrow. And I can't wait to see the tomorrow, whereby a person will not define me by my appearance, but will define me by my abilities.
Thank you so very much. And before we wrap up today's episode, we wanted to share the information for this year's International Albinism Awareness Day, June 13th, 2025.
Oh, yes. And this year's theme is really significant. It is demanding our rights, protect our skin, preserve our lives.
You know, it's shocking that in 2025, we're still seeing preventable skin cancer deaths in people with albinism. That's not just a healthcare oversight, it's literally a human rights issue.
Absolutely. When you think about it, sunscreen isn't just a cosmetic product for people, especially persons with albinism. It's life-saving medicine. That's why there's a big push to get the World Health Organization to add sunscreen to their essential medicines list.
If you want to learn more or get involved, albinism advocacy groups are already talking about celebrating International Awareness Day, so be sure to look for social media posts and share them.
Thank you for sharing their posts and using their hashtags to help expand the conversation.
This is about fundamental rights, the right to health and the right to light, the two most important human rights, without which you couldn't have the others. Sometimes the simplest interventions can make the biggest difference.
This year's theme is really calling on authorities to take concrete action, demanding that governments recognize that preventable skin cancer deaths in persons with albinism violate both the right to health and the right to life itself.
Exactly. They're asking for practical steps like funding skin cancer screening programs, making sunscreen readily available, and adding it to the WHO essential medicines list.
And there's a push for better data collection too. They want authorities to track how many people with albinism are affected by skin cancer so we can understand the true scale of the problem.
It's about accountability. These deaths are preventable with the right resources and attention from health authorities. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Witch Hunt.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel yet? Do that today.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.